If a parent requests an independent educational evaluation, the public agency may ask for the parent's reason why he or she objects to the public evaluation. However, the public agency may not require the parent to provide an explanation and may not unreasonably delay either providing the independent educational evaluation at public expense or filing a due process complaint to request a due process hearing to defend the public evaluation. So when it comes to asking for an independent educational evaluation from your school district, this can get awkward because essentially what you're saying is, I'm disagreeing with your own evaluations. And a lot of times, Jen, you know, whenever I'm involved in an IEP team meeting, I always try to do this very gracefully because you, as the person who did the evaluation, can very much take offense to the fact that I'm disagreeing with your evaluation. So this is one of those things that you have to do in a way that you try to make people comfortable.
And it's not easy to do because the upshot of the request is you're asking your school district to spend money, which is always an awkward thing for school districts here, and they don't want to hear it in all candor. And you're also sometimes to the very people who are working with your child saying, I don't trust your analysis of my child's needs. And that's not a comfortable place to be in with the people who are working with your children. So Julie and I like to talk a lot about how to do things in a way that is more likely to get you the answer you want, which in this case is yes, okay?
We hope.
And we hope. And you're more likely to do that if you approach it with an attitude that is not accusatory and that is just clearly saying, I don't agree, it doesn't feel right to me, I disagree with this evaluation, and to do it in a way that doesn't get everyone defensive and more likely, therefore, to say no.
This is also one of these, this is also an area in which when the school district is asking a parent, I've seen many parents, as well as I sometimes, even though I've done it many, many times, is you can get flustered. Because a school district might say, you have to tell me exactly why you disagree with this evaluation. I want to know the exact reasons. Well, in fact, Jen, you don't have to tell them the exact reason. However, by practice, I always like to give a reason because I think it's one of those things where you should, out of courtesy, at least give them some sense of why you're disagreeing.
And it also can help the process, and because many parents don't really understand what exact tests are used to evaluate different kinds of disability. They don't sometimes even understand the difference, for an example, between a psychologist and a psychiatrist. So they may go in and say, I want a psychological evaluation, and in fact, if you were to ask questions, someone who understood the process very well were to ask questions, in fact, what the parent might really be wanting is a psychiatric evaluation. So talking through why you disagree can sometimes inform the team in a good way to say, what you really want us to investigate is whether or not the child has an anxiety disorder. Okay, so we typically go to a medical doctor for that. So that would be a psychiatrist, not a psychologist. Let's go for a psychiatric evaluation. It's just good to talk it out because it may help you, be able to get what you're really looking for, which is information about the child that you don't think you have currently.